Russia scales up its attacks as Ukraine warns of urgent need for weapons. Russia has mounted its largest attacks since October, and its missiles are destroying Ukraine's power plants. Ukraine has repelled a battalion-sized mechanized assault on its eastern front, the first attack of such a scale in 5 months, proving the resilience of its defenses, but raising concerns that Russia is becoming increasingly ambitious as it gears up for an expected major offensive. The attack on Sunday reportedly included 36 tanks and a dozen infantry fighting vehicles, and struck near Tonank, a village close to Avdiivka, the city Russia overran on February 17 and has been inching westward from ever since. A Ukrainian serviceman reported that a third of the tanks and 2/3 of the infantry fighting vehicles were destroyed. The start was very good. We carried out combined fire, said a Russian trainer of Stormzy assault forces. On subsequent approaches, which lasted until lunchtime, the fire supply dwindled to sparse artillery fire, and then significant losses began. Yet he noted that the last group of vehicles to enter the fray suffered no losses, possibly indicating that local Ukrainian defenses had been exhausted. I would venture to cautiously suggest that these regular visits could ultimately overload the enemy's strike capabilities. We are trying to find some way not to retreat, Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky told the Washington Post's David Ignatius in an interview published 2 days before the battle. If there is no U.S. support, it means that we have no air defense, no Patriot missiles, no jammers for electronic warfare, number 155mm artillery rounds, he said. It means we will go back, retreat, step by step, in small steps. Some $60.1 billion in United States military aid the administration of Joe Biden requested last December has been stalled by a small group of lawmakers loyal to former President Donald Trump, who hopes to return to power in the November election. Europe was stepping in to cover some of the shortages. A Czech initiative had reportedly located 1 million artillery shells around the world which would start to be delivered to Ukraine this month, and France pledged hundreds of reconditioned armored personnel vehicles. Ukrainian Commander-in-Chief Oleksandr Syrskyi told Ukrinform that Avdiivka would not have fallen if deliveries of Western military aid had been more constant, and that the Ukrainian counteroffensive that reclaimed much of Kharkiv and Kherson in September 2022 would have been more sustained. He said Ukrainian soldiers were outnumbered and outgunned by a ratio of 6 to 1, but despite this Russians were suffering staggering losses, 570 tanks, 1,430 armored vehicles and 1,680 artillery systems in the last 2 months alone, thanks to changes in tactics that optimized available resources. Although Ukrainian forces had largely managed to stabilize the front line following the fall of Avdiivka, Ukraine was not prepared to stop another major Russian offensive, Zelensky told the U.S. broadcaster CBS. Partners are sometimes really happy that we have stabilized the situation, Zelensky said. No, I say we need help now. And that stabilization is not 100% solid. Russian forces have continued to make marginal advances. Most of these have been in the neighborhood of Avdiivka. Despite their defeat on Sunday, they made marginal gains west of Tonank and were photographed in the settlements of Semenivka and Berdikai, both northwest of Avdiivka. On Monday and Tuesday at the south, they advanced into the settlement of Novomykhailivka, southwest of Donetsk City, on March 27. And at the northern end of the front, in Luhansk, they began to creep into Bilohorivka on Tuesday. Russian Defense Minister Sergei Shoigu boasted in a Tuesday conference call with military personnel that Russian forces had gained 403 square kilometers since the beginning of the year. The Institute for the Study of War, a Washington-based think tank, put the figure at 305 square kilometers since January 1, and a total of 505 square kilometers, 5 times the size of Paris, since Russian forces went on the offensive in October. Russia has been targeting Ukraine's power plants, and in the past week began to bomb hydroelectric power stations in addition to thermal power plants. The Kaniv hydroelectric power plant, 80 kilometers southeast of Kyiv, and the Dniester hydroelectric power plant, 300 kilometers southwest of Kyiv, just north of the Moldovan border, have been among the main targets. The barrage of drones and missiles that targeted these dams and other infrastructure was massive, 60 Iranian-designed Shahid drones and 37 missiles of various types. Ukraine managed to down 58 of the drones and 26 of the missiles, but Zelensky stressed the need for greater air defense. It is necessary to replenish supplies more quickly, he said. Zelensky told the Washington Post that air defense ammunition was running low, and CBS that Ukraine could lock its skies to Russian attacks with another 5 to 7 Patriot batteries. The range of possible outcomes from most advantageous to most dangerous is very wide and will remain so until it is clear whether the US will resume military support, said the ISW. The other great variable, it said, was Ukrainian manpower. And on Tuesday Zelensky signed into law a long-awaited bill lowering the conscription age from 27 to 25. The bill is expected to raise up to 500,000 new soldiers for Ukraine, though Syrskyi said a more efficient rotation of existing manpower had made that scale of recruitment unnecessary. Russia also reached a new milestone on March 22, when it completely destroyed one of the largest thermal power plants in Kharkiv. All units were destroyed, at the Zmivska power plant, said its operator, Centrenergo. The degree of destruction is different. Ukrainian Foreign Minister Dmytro Kuleba said Russia had launched 140 drones and 190 missiles against civilian infrastructure far from the front lines in just 1 week, from March 18 to 24. French Defense Minister Sébastien Lecornu said his country would provide Aster-30 surface-to-air missiles to strengthen air defense. Ukraine's response has been to target Russian energy infrastructure back, specifically oil refineries. And on Tuesday a Ukrainian drone struck the Teniko refinery in Tatarstan, Russia's third-largest refining facility, more than 1,000 kilometers 600 miles from the Ukrainian border. Tatarstan head Rustam Minikhanov claimed no serious damage was done, but Reuters reported that the drone had struck a core refining unit and reduced the plant's capacity by half. In the same strike, Ukraine also hit a dormitory at the Alabuga Polytechnic, which is reportedly used to build Shahid drones. Ukrainian military intelligence, GUR, which conducted the strike, said there was significant destruction of production facilities. GUR deputy head Vadim Skibitsky predicted that Russia would pause its missile strikes against Ukraine after 2 or 3 more waves of strikes in order to replenish stocks. Russia has about 950 high-precision missiles of the operational strategic and strategic level with a range of more than 350 kilometers. We observe a tendency that they, as a rule, try to keep their stocks at the level of at least 900 missiles, Skibitsky said.